Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. Have you ever wondered how to be a high performer? You're going to want to stick around for this. Good morning, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and as always, I'm here with your host, Nicholas T. Smith. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and go do that now, and you can join us on Facebook, a tribe of giants. Boy, who do we have a giant today, and we got to get right to it because we got a bio that's incredible to read.
Nick. Yeah, and I'm going to try and make it not sound like I'm reading it, but I don't know how that's going to go. But this is awesome. Yeah. So Vanessa Brewers, did I say your last name right?
You say it how I say it, which is wrong.
Okay, so yeah, the way it was
just right and wrong at the same time.
So Vanessa works with high achievers to help them become high performers, and I love this distinction. She says where high achievers rely on hard work, force, and often self-abuse, high performers have learned how to truly optimize their work through creativity, power, and magic. So she actually began her work as a life and performance coach, as a health coach, and to improve her own health. And as she worked with herself and her clients, she became fascinated with their conversations that they rarely stayed on food. And she became curious as to why some clients succeeded while others failed. She was fascinated by her clients' inability to reach their goals despite having the knowledge, time, motivation, and resources to do it. Man, I'm feeling like I'm getting in the mode of reading this. It's pretty rad. So this catalyzed her decade-long study of human behavior and performance. She's apprenticed and studied with the highest masters of this craft, including Master Coach Steve Chandler, who I know, King of Playful Prosperity, Jason Goldberg, Personal Power Coach John P. Morgan, who was on our show earlier, and Financial Prosperity Coach Cayman Samuel. She also spent 2 years working closely with arguably one of the most powerful shaman in the world to understand on an almost surgical level how the complex emotional experiences of human beings can be understood and transcended and how they unconsciously influence our behavior. As a result, Vanessa has developed precise knowledge of the complex and nuanced way that human beings operate on a physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental level. She understands that what gets in the way of optimal performance and how to keep her clients consistently moving forward and inspired and meet obstacles with courage and playfulness. She disagrees with popular opinion that people lack motivation, commitment, and discipline, and believes in the potential of every person that she sits with. She's a certified health coach, is certified in the transformational coaching method and master transformational coaching method, as well as 10 years of coaching experience. She's coached hundreds of people across a range of professions, from executive level leaders, entrepreneurs, professional coaches, therapists, and waitresses. While people's behaviors can feel mysterious, when you understand the patterns, the path forward is clear. How did I do on that?
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Well, I'm impressed already. We could end the show right there and call it good. Yeah. And outro. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I can say I've been genuinely excited about being here.
Cool.
That was a couple months ago, I think, that we scheduled it. And since I've thought about it like every week.
I keep trying to remember to send out reminders. Hey, you're on the show. Did you remember? You reached out and you're like, hey, I'm excited to be there. You're like one of the first people that's actually reached back and said that. That was actually cool.
Everyone else, we just hope in a prayer they show up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people at home have to sit and listen to Nick and I go on and on, and they're already tired of that.
Trickiness of the live show.
Yeah. So let's dive in. We may follow the rules here, but most likely we're going to break them because that's your motto. So do you mind going back in time and telling us about growing up and what it was like?
Yeah, it's, you caught me at such an interesting time for this question. I feel like normally, I don't know, I have this question, answered, right?
Yeah.
What I've recently come to discover is that the way we tell the story of our past is basically how we create our future.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And so I used to tell the story of, well, I grew up in a like a wealthy neighborhood, but we were kind of like the poor kids in the wealthy neighborhood. My parents were alcoholics, but they were really loving. And, I had some trauma in my childhood, but it's recently come to my awareness that I keep recreating overcoming because of the way that I tell this story. Like, I overcame this trauma in my childhood. I've identified myself as someone who's really good at overcoming stuff. And so I just keep creating stuff to overcome.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't know if my honest answer is I don't know how to answer that question yet, because I'm still in the space of like letting go of that story to create a new one.
Can we play with that word a little bit? The recreating and recreating, there's a distinction that can be created right here, I think. And so to recreate or to recreate, recreate would be almost to have fun with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's my spin. Now that I've primed you and anchored you in, now what do you think?
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. It's funny. I years ago, I made a video, which is recreation is recreation.
Okay.
So you put me on the spot here. So, okay.
Yeah.
I think if I'm going to make up and have fun with the story of my past, I would say I grew up with a wild family of 6 girls who have all become, we joke that we're witches now.
Yeah.
But super spiritual family, really wild, a lot of energy in a house full of 6 witch women. And so,
which one? I think of Hot Rod. Which one?
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah.
So, it was playful. It was wild. My parents were, I think my parents primed me to be sort of like a hippie, which was awesome because we didn't grow up in that. So I think that, being sort of the fitting out in an environment of people who are really focused on fitting in is probably what kind of primed me to be the rule-breaking individual that I turned out to be.
Yeah, wow, try fitting out. Yeah, that was good.
Thanks.
Ryan, could you have improved that? I thought it was great.
Not at all.
No?
It was like you did a video on it once.
Or twice, yeah. Yeah. So, staying on that word for just a minute, then we'll move forward. But the reacting and creating the same, I use this in the past, the same letters are just rearranged. And so some people are reacting to their lives, some are recreating their lives, and some are recreating with their lives. So there's so many ways to say this, that you can have fun with your life, you can react to your life, or you can recreate what was and live into that.
God, that's good.
I just made that up, dude. I feel like Eminem, just make it up on the spot. Just
every now and again he nails one. Just connects.
That's amazing. That's incredible. Yeah. Uh-oh, we got a stowaway.
Yeah, yes. Bring on the stowaways.
Let me lock my door.
I love stowaways.
I always forget I gotta lock the door now. She's old enough to open it.
Yeah, my daughter will come on the screen sometimes. She'll come halfway on, so you see like half a profile right here,
That reminds me of that viral video. I don't know if you guys remember this a couple years ago, where there was like a news anchor working from home and he was doing this really serious interview, and the kid came in, and then like his wife came in, and it was just so
drags the kid out of the room.
Yeah.
We actually had that. Ryan and I were on a show, and all of a sudden you hear Ryan, I'm on the radio. He's yelling at his family. Yeah. And we're live. It was awesome.
Kids were in the background beating each other up. I have twin 8-year-old boys. And I'm
all just say, yeah,
I'm on the radio. And then I turn around and I'm like, oh, it didn't go to mute. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
This is on Access Radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Beautiful. Canada and the US and everywhere else it's broadcast.
Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide. So identity, right? That's what you're really stepping into, is we get to choose it. And so when you're looking at your story that you're telling from the very beginning, it can influence what you create into your future. Can you dive into that a little more?
Yes. Something that one of the most important things I think any human being can know is that description is creation. We think we're describing the way we grew up, or we're describing who we are, we're describing our spouse or whatever, our business situation. But in that describing, we're actually creating the way we experience it. or at least we're reporting on the way we experience it, which kind of ingrains it deeper in us. So the way we see something literally changes the opportunity that we see to be different, to do different, to experience things differently. And so when it comes to identity, I think, identity we think of a lot in how we see ourselves. But I like to parallel identity with also how we see the world. Because the world that you see is just a reflection of yourself. Right? There is no way for you to experience a world differently than you experience yourself. It is just a mirror reflection.
Yeah. Wow. I like that. Yeah. And so you're scripting it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I had somebody say the other day, prescripting, right? You look at a prescription that a doctor gives you and it's prescribing and pre-writing something into the future. And so how often do we prescript our lives to end up a certain way based on our narrative?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I can see that your world is going to be exactly as you see it, as you experience it. Yeah.
I do this fun exercise with my clients a lot. And I have them close their eyes and say, on 3, I want you to open your eyes and look for everything that's blue. So they'll open their eyes and they'll look around just 3 seconds or so, and they close their eyes again. Then I'll say, okay, next open your eyes and look for everything that's red. They'll open their eyes and look for everything that's red. And then when I ask them what they saw, I'm like, was it super easy to find blue and super easy to find red? And, the answer is always yes, because you're going to find what you're looking for.
Right.
But the fun part is when I ask, and did you turn gray into blue and orange into red and pink into red? Meaning when you looked around, you kind of saw something that was like orangish, but you counted as red. And so that's what we do when we see ourselves or we tell the story of ourselves in a particular way. We unconsciously take things that, like, let's say you experience your family is super critical and judgmental, and that's the story you tell.
Yeah.
Even if they're complimenting you or just concerned about something, that's like the orange and the red. They might not even be criticizing you, but you're going to see it that way. So that's why I say the way you tell your story is you're going to see it.
Well, this is so cool because the other day, there's nothing by accident. I swear these shows like line up, things happen in my life that line up for every episode. So this week I was rewriting, I was going back in time to events that were impactful, that felt impactful. Let's say that. And I was rewriting the narrative in there. Like if I didn't respond in a way that would have been powerful, I went back in my mind and responded to that situation in a powerful way. And it shifted the energy of it. Now that experience was no longer from the space of a victim. It was from the space of an empowered person. So I just went back in time. And why not? Because it's all my memory and I get to write it however I want. Like if 2 people have the same experience or the same event, let's say that, and they come out with different experiences, is because of the story they're telling, right? Yeah. So yeah, I want to get right into your philosophy. I don't even know if we'll go with the questions here. So just keep going. You're doing great. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I just, kind of just piggybacking off of that a little bit.
Okay.
I've been in the coaching world for a long time. I've worked with really incredible coaches. So this way of thinking is not new to me. Yeah. Like, the victim versus creator. But what I have recently just found so powerful is that it's really hard. It's hard for me anyway. It was hard for me to be in this really empowered position of like creating my experience when I was carrying this like luggage of all this stuff from behind. Yeah. I didn't even realize that I was putting myself at a disadvantage to be a creator by having been a victim. And so I think that the distinction that I'm kind of fumbling through right now is that like I was trying so hard for so long to move from victim to creator, like from the present forward, instead of just considering, had I ever actually been a victim in the first place? Was there actually anything to overcome? And when you can let go of when I let go of the weight and the energy of all of that, being a creator in my present moment or a recreator in my present moment, which I love even more, it was so much easier.
You remember the story about the king and his new clothes, the emperor and his new clothes? And there was nothing there, but he's like super proud of these invisible clothes that he's putting on, and he parades down the street naked and thinking that he's been dressed in this thing that's amazing. that's what comes to mind, is these stories that we carry that we say are so heavy are all created just like the Emperor's New Clothes.
Now there's going to be a bunch of giants out there just walking around naked.
They should. You know, that's how we were made.
In jail.
Yeah, in jail. In fact, I was at work one day and I see all these cops.
Nick Smith told you.
Yeah, these cops buzz by the window and there's this dude naked in tennis shoes running down the street in front of them. And they tackled him right in front of our work. I wouldn't tackle that dude. I'd be like, "You're good, man. Go."
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, we'll see you later.
So funny. Yeah, there's a lot of things in the coaching world, at least with my clients, maybe because we're all a little bit loco. And I'm like, now I don't want to get a call. Like, I'm not your one call from prison, right? So
yeah. we are all a little bit loco. Yeah, I would agree. That's why we do it, huh? So moving forward, did you have a vision of doing what you're doing now, or was it kind of it evolved into this?
Yeah, I found coaching completely by accident, really. Okay. I went to undergrad for economics, and I didn't like it. I think it's crazy that we decide what we want to do, or we put ourselves in a position to make a massive investment in our future when we're 18 years old.
Yeah.
The thought process, the logic is just flawed. So I'm there. I'm in an economics circumstance. I don't want to be there because I realize I don't like it. I know that what I want to study is nutrition, but they don't offer it. But I don't want, at that point I was a sophomore, so I didn't want to like start the whole college thing over. So being the high achiever that I was, I found this program where I could do my master's and my bachelor's in 4 years and just knock out 2 years of school and get 2 different degrees. So I found a degree in health policy and management, and I dove in. I finished the whole thing in 4 years. I graduated, and then the reality of like what you would do with that degree hit me. I didn't want to do it. So I was working an unpaid internship, 40 hours a week at the city planning department. It was like The Office without the humor. I mean, I was literally like sitting in a bare corner. I just had like blank wall.
Speaking of prison.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Oh my, there's no, like the energy was gray. Like there was,
Yeah.
And I was bartending full time as well to pay my bills. So I went home one day and I was like, what am I doing? But I'm working 40 hours a week unpaid. Like, that's ridiculous. No amount of experience. It was ridiculous. So I quit the internship that day.
Are you still for hire? I mean,
right?
You could use some help.
I know, right?
It's got a flood of emails about that.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of job offers.
Yeah, note that. We can hire people without paying them. I didn't know that.
Yeah. File that under the list of things my daughter will never do.
Yeah.
So I quit. And I just asked myself, what do I want to do? I'm not doing what I want to do now. I'm not getting paid for that 40 hours a week. So I might as well just do what I want to do and not get paid for it and keep the other job. And nutrition returned to my mind. And because of the way life works, I did a little research, knew I didn't want to go back to school. So I started asking around, and my sister's friend's mother was a health coach. So we scheduled coffee that day, and I was enrolled in this program by the end of the day. And it was primarily for my own interest. I struggled with disordered eating and, I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. I knew there were people who were really healthy who weren't torturing themselves like I was.
Yeah.
And so I enrolled, and it blew my mind. I had never been in an environment that, luckily, this particular school really focused on both nutrition, but also what they called the primary foods, which was just everything else in life. And that when there wasn't a balance, it's like whack-a-mole. Your issues are going to come out somewhere, and mine were coming out in nutrition.
Not to be confused with guacamole. Right? A little different.
Slightly different.
Who says guacamole?
Both awesome.
Guacamole.
So yeah, I fell into health coaching. There was never an intention to actually practice it as a profession, but I just thought it was such a cool perspective. I just started sharing it, and I was in this blissful, ignorant state at that time. So I'm like, sure, you could pay me. Like, I'll coach you. I had no like, can I do this? Am I qualified? I was just excited.
Going from unpaid to paid, that's a huge jump, right? That's a giant move.
My standard was low. So like, you pay me anything, I'll be your coach.
Yeah, I'll take some money, sure.
Yeah, and it just evolved. I mean, I was always more fascinated in the mindset part than the health part. And so I just kept following the breadcrumbs, and, little by little over time, it evolved into what I do now.
I think I'm the only one that laughs at dad jokes anymore.
No,
My
I
kids are
love
like so
that.
burned out. They're like, oh gosh,
I love them.
so embarrassed, Dad. So I want to talk about by accident. Okay, so this is really important because I see in our society all these people that they have this vision of what should be according to the rules, right? They go into it and they start doing what everybody says you should do to feel happy, to be successful. They get through it and they're depressed and they're suicidal and they're all these things that are negative, and they're feeling what a waste of my life, and they don't know what to do with it. And then there are these things that are accidentally, quote unquote, or accidental, that take us into a path that really aligns for us. We just didn't know that because we were so busy and so focused on what we think should be that we just didn't see it, right? That somebody could lose their sight and open up a new pathway, that never would have been there had that not happened, right?
Correct.
We have guests on the show who are amputees or paralyzed, and they've got to reframe their life. And would they be who they are without that event, right?
I love calling that out because it wasn't really an accident. That's really great. That's another part of my story I'm going to rewrite moving forward, because it was intuitive, right? It was, and that is really, I have the Practical Magic show, and the whole thing that I'm learning about magic is magic happens when you align your actions with your truth.
Oh, wow.
And then life steps in, right? Because what are the odds that I talk to my sister whose friend's mom is a health coach I've never met, never talked to, and I'm that day. And I think that, that's true. It's not accidental when you take an action that's really in alignment. It's actually how magic works.
Kind of the suffering comes when you step out of alignment, when you have this feeling like, oh, well, I could do this and I'd really love that, but I don't make money doing it. So I'm going to go over here and suffer and feel miserable, because that's what you do to create success. Right. And we're going to do a show today with Al that was just right there on addiction. And one of the things that happens is that people numb out because they feel so horrible. I would think inside that they numb out, and then it turns into an addiction. And so it's like you just don't want to feel those feelings, and then it just keeps adding. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
no. I mean, I think it's an important element too, because we've got to. I think if we want to be able to explore high performance, which is kind of my thing, I guess, there's also this, what blocks high performance is not. Of course, it is about the training. It's about the education. It's about the mastery. It's about all of those things, but it's equally about letting go of what's in the way of your high performance. Well, I talked to, I actually have a client who is like a director of new business for a huge organization. Right. And she was a real high achiever when we met. Like, she worked her way up there, but we sort of stumbled onto the conversation around creativity. And within like 3 weeks, she had a couture bag line making like $5,000 a month. She went from idea to product in hand to sales and money in the bank in like a matter of weeks. Right. And I share that because what was in that was all right there. That creativity, there was nothing in the way of that high performance being accessible to her in terms of skill or training or all these things that we put in the way, like another training, more experience, blah, blah, blah. All we had to do was move out of the way this idea that something creative had to be your side gig.
Yeah. So like I can see
this space coming from here instead of, knowing what's really true.
Yeah. So the magic fingers. So my thought that just came up while you're saying that is that so many of us go after our dreams from, am I doing it right? Versus like the distinction created being that, am I doing it the way it aligns for me? And that might be against what you've been taught as rules. As you say, I'm a rule breaker, and I would use some language because you do on your site, and I love it. But you break the rules and you do it with what aligns for you rather than, am I doing it right? And so many question that, and then they stop because they just can't reconcile where they are with what should be, what they think should be.
And
What
I
came
think
up with that?
if you're so focused on the fact that you're not doing it right, that you're not doing anything, and if you're in this space, there's no judgment, but if
Right.
you're in this space,
Yeah.
you can't do it right if you're not doing it at all. Like, it's so much better to do it wrong if there is a wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that what comes up around that is this obsession with how.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're really a culture of 7-step systems, 30 minutes to, and I get it, like it appeals to the instant gratification in us. But I think that's where the am I doing it right? How do I do it thing comes from. And honestly, at least in my experience, that's primarily a function of fear, misalignment, and just not really being connected to why. So I often tell my clients, if you're stuck on how, ask why.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you guys are probably incredible examples of that with the Giants book. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's like visually insane. Everything about this book is mind-blowingly incredible. And my experience of you anyway is you're just out there in the world. Like, you're just and I would almost say making stuff happen, but you're not making stuff happen. You're out
We're
there in the
uncovering.
world. Yeah, just being in alignment and sharing, and then life is meeting you and taking its turn. And I
And
think
it's definitely not perfect.
No, yeah, we're beyond perfection. Not in the upward movement. It's like,
Yeah, we're way.
yeah, it's like, oh man, that's messy. But the how to, to get up or hung up on the how to is a fear response. If I would just know and have certainty about the path, then I would take it. And what you found in your bio, like you said, is that people had the resources. They had the how to. They could afford the how to, and they still didn't do anything with it. And so certainty doesn't guarantee action. And so if you're getting hung up on the how to, then you're out of action because you're still trying to plan certainty. And it doesn't matter what it is. I look at this gentleman, Simone, that owns the gelato shop in Santa Monica, right? Coming to America with absolutely no idea of how to do it, but a drive to figure it out. And that's how we should approach our dreams is we'll figure it out. If one path doesn't work, we'll cut another path. And if that path doesn't work, just like Lewis and Clark or anybody else, I'll find another one and another one and another one. And that's resiliency.
And do you know what I think is so crazy about the desire for certainty in the first place?
Sure.
Just by the nature of you desiring something, you want something different than what you have. And it's like when we crave certainty, it's like I think it's because certainty to me is like, I want familiarity. I want everything to feel the same. It's like, I want to get a haircut, but don't cut too much off because I don't want to look that different. It's like, I want to look like something fresh, and I just got a haircut. That's why I'm at mine.
I did too this morning. I just trimmed up. I'm like,
you want something new and fresh and exciting, which is why you get out there and pursue. But the only way you can have certainty is if you keep everything exactly the same.
Yeah. I go to the barber and I'm like, can you add 3 inches?
You would be a wealthy barber.
Yeah. Can you put a little right here for me? And but no, they just take it away. Just like our hopes and dreams. No, just trim those down. Just going with that. I don't even know where I was going, but the idea of consistency, even if it's uncomfortable, is people will take the certainty even when it's painful.
Yes.
They know what they can count on.
Yes, you can count on it.
Yeah. And I think that's why rules exist, is because there are things that you can count on. But the thing is then you start adding rules to rules to rules. And then you've got like, let's say the IRS code, thousands of pages of just rules. And then it's like, so how do I do this right? How do I do anything right? Because it's different for every person. They've got rules for rules. And what I love about you is you're saying, well, break that.
Well, break them and realize that there really aren't any rules.
Yeah.
There's just other people's comforts that they're attached to, that you attach to because they're comfortable for you.
Right.
And then when I look at rules that way, I'm like, oh, well, I don't have to do that. I don't want to do. And so, I was at an event last week, and the person I was talking to kind of started this really like antagonistic debate that I was just not interested in. And it, like just the event that we were at, I'm like, this is just not like, this is not aligned. I don't want to be doing this. And I said a couple times, like, look, I'm not going to sway you. You're not going to sway me. I don't even really want to be in this conversation right now. I respect your opinion. You're going to have to let me have mine because, you know, I'm not going to keep doing this. Very kind. Like, I wasn't like agitated or anything.
Did you finish it with like, you're wrong, but you can have your opinion?
I mean, I realize that when I enlighten people about how wrong they are painful. So I'm standing here and I'm realizing I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to be in this conversation. And I start thinking about what are the, like, I don't know that I use this language, but what I was doing is, what are the rules keeping me right here? Oh, that it would be rude to walk away. You can't, like, socially, you have to like stick into some like girl thing that, you know, you don't want to be in. And so I stood there for a second. We got into this super uncomfortable silence. And I'm like, what do I want to do? And I just walked away. It wasn't like a, hey, F you. I just was like, I just calmly walked away. I was like, I'm done, I'm leaving. And it was like, that was it. Like, there's no rule that I would have stayed in that conversation because I was following a rule that, like, it's not okay, or I'm more concerned with how he'll feel about me than how I feel about me staying.
Right.
And, you know, we talked, you know, just, we had to continue to interact for the rest of the day, and it was fine.
Yeah.
So I just think that when you look at rule breaking from the perspective of what are the rules you're following because you think you have to follow from other people, then you finally see that you're actually following that rule because of what you care about what other people think.
Right.
You're free.
Right. Yeah. Which when you're free, that means that you get to step into the uncertain, which is where all the possibilities are. And the more certainty you have, the less you can see as far as options.
That's right.
And so there's a quote that we have on our site or on one of our programs that says, when nothing is certain, everything is possible. And I love that because that's really where creation happens. So I want to keep going down that path. What else comes up as you hear that?
When nothing is certain, everything is possible.
Yep.
First of all, I want to write that on my wall.
Yeah. Perfect. Stencils in fancy font. Right.
It reminds me of a book I'm reading right now called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. It's a Trojan horse because you're like, oh, that's fun. Like, I want a happy pocket full of money. And then you open it and you're like in Alice in Wonderland. Like, it's quantum physics and it's just crazy.
How did I get here? Right. Like,
so, this book is so good. I've committed to reading it, only this book, for a year on repeat. Just finish your story. So anyway, it talks about the quantum nature of reality. Right? Where every single thing is possible simultaneously.
Yeah.
If you think it already exists.
You just
Did I just open up
you don't know it, but Nick loves physics. Boy. Look at this. It's like a little kid in a candy store. You just dropped him off at the candy store.
We're either about to have everybody really excited, or you're going to lose half of
if there was a snore emoji, it would be like zzz, like all these Z's going. And
everyone else is
live in it.
Nick's like, yeah, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah.
Okay, and back to it.
Keep going.
Ready to go.
Well, this is really exciting. I'll know exactly who to call when I'm like, oh my God.
Hey, check this out. Yeah. You and me and JP Morgan will
that's exactly right.
Solve the world, right?
Exactly right. Well, so when we think about certainty, or like, okay, let me back up a little bit. So in the quantum reality, everything is possible the moment you think about it. It not only can exist, it does exist.
Right.
So take away space and time, and that thing exists. So there's the certainty that thing exists if you just look at it from a quantum perspective.
Yep.
But when we look at certainty from another definition, it's like, what am I certain of?
Yeah.
So I might dream up the perfect house, and the moment I think about that house, it exists. Right. So that is certain, and from a quantum perspective. But then from my perspective, I'm certain that I'd never be able to afford that house. Right. So it's like when we let go of certainty, our certainty, everything is possible. That's what comes up when I hear that.
So I want to dive in a little more into this. We're going to go down the rabbit hole here.
Okay.
Thank you, Alice in Wonderland. The idea here. So have you ever seen a photon?
I have not.
Yeah. Have you ever seen one jump from non-existence to existence, an electron go in and out of existence instantaneously, spontaneously?
No, but I feel like I need to.
Yeah. So I'm setting you up here. I'm setting you up.
Homework.
Yeah. So you think about this, the amount of faith that it takes to believe in science, right, is no different from the amount of faith it takes to believe in Buddhism or Christianity or anything else. And it's this idea that that belief in it, which is the narrative that you're telling yourself, the things you're holding dear inside of you that say, I can or I can't do things, and you guard those. It's no different whether it's science or atheism or Christianity or Buddhism or Hindu, like any of it. It doesn't matter, because none of us have really seen it. Very few of us. Let me change that. Very few of us have seen the evidence, but we rely on the evidence we're told, and we trust the source. So we act on it because we trust the source. I mean, you talk to a guy like Steve Chandler, who's a powerhouse. Well, why is he a powerhouse? Well, because he has books. So does that make him a powerhouse, right? No, I have experience coaching with him. So I experienced that. So I have this belief that what he says, I'm going to act on. And some of us that takes science, and some of us that takes religion. Mm-hmm. But it's this trusting that the information that we're hearing can really make a difference in our life if we act on it. It's magic. It really is. No matter how you look at it, it's magic, because you're trusting that what you speak into the world and what you act on is going to become a reality. How is that any different from religion to science to atheism? Like, you're still stepping into the unknown.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it's funny that you brought that up, because when I restarted the book, and I was thinking, like, I am just believing this.
Yeah.
But I'm believing it because it really serves me. And, I love to study Zen Buddhism. And so I love that connection, because it is all the same. And even if if you're the kind of person who's a skeptic, which is beautiful,
yeah,
test it out yourself, because whether or not you believe any of what any of these things teach, just from a skeptical perspective, look at your own life. You're going to see that what you think and you believe, you continually create.
Yeah, there's some things that we can't explain, right? We had this experience the other night where Ryan and I were having a conversation. We were talking about creating for the giants and the smalls. I'm getting ready to leave. I go out to the car. My phone goes off, and it's a particular song. We did a video on this, and that song pops up. I've never heard this band or this song, and it pops up and starts playing in my pocket. And so I pull out the song. I'm like, that's interesting. It was a decent song. And I show it to Ryan, and he's like, hey, that reminded me, I was going to tell you about a song that I heard today from a guy named Brett Moore. And he shares that song. It's by this band that I've never heard of. Right. And he plays the song, and it's about giants. And it's like one of these things. How does that occur in our world with explanation? It's like electrons appearing and disappearing seemingly spontaneously. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's such a good story. I also want to know the song too. So
yeah. We'll have to see if we can post it here. AJR. I think it's called Green in Town.
Oh, never heard it.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's a good song. I just keep looking for giant songs for the movie soundtrack. I just keep making it more and more real in my mind. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, but I mean, the more real it is in your mind, the more real it instantly becomes in the world. One of the, kind of referring back to JP Morgan, I don't know if he talked about this when he was on with you guys. He talks about the word abracadabra. Mm-hmm. I create as I speak. And so quite often I'll speak about things that don't fully exist yet for that very reason. So you're speaking about the movie, and already for me, the movie is real. It's not like, I don't know how it feels for you, but a lot of times when we're the person who has this idea, it feels like, oh, this thing is an idea. But the moment you spoke that to me, it's a real thing. This movie is happening. So I'm already like, all right, if I hear songs that are about giants, you're going to get them. If I meet someone, I'm going to send them to you.
Right.
That's magic. Like
I had somebody reach out last night. So when you declare it, right, others start to connect. Like you're saying, they'll make these connections and they'll send it your way. Hey, I just thought of this for you. Last night, I got a message in Messenger. Ryan, you don't know about this yet, but their cousin works at Pixar as an animator. I get emotional. It's like these things come into my space. They're like, do you want to meet them? Well, hell yeah, I want to meet them. Like, of course I do. So, one of the things Steve Hardison changed AJR to mean another joyful reminder. I don't know what the band name means, but it's another joyful reminder that as you take action, these crazy things appear, this magic appears in your world. And it's another joyful reminder that there's something beyond what you can see and sense.
Well, what's even so crazy that you would share that story here is that when I was looking at your backgrounds, I was thinking about, and I don't know if this is a Pixar movie, but I watched it. It's called Raya and the Last Dragon. It's a new
loved it. Yeah.
Movie. But I was just visually blown away by how beautiful this movie was. And I just assumed it was a Pixar movie. Maybe it is, or maybe it isn't. But when I saw your background of the illustrations from your book, the first thing I thought of was their book looks like a Pixar movie.
Yeah. Yeah. The artist is incredible. It is. That's our declaration. It already is. We're even picking out, Ryan's got his suit picked out for the red carpet. We'll send out the invites. You just imagine it. And Vanessa, like in your world, it's the same thing. Whatever you're creating, you imagine it, you make it real, because when you can do that, you'll act on it. When you can feel like, yeah, it matters for me to act on this because I believe I can create this. Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to do anything with it.
That's right. And for me, that's where beginning my journey into quantum physics really helped, because what I found was that per quantum physics, you don't really need to believe in yourself, which can be helpful. I just need to understand science.
Yeah.
Like
Brandon Bouchard, he talked about getting, the idea that we've got to get rid of our limiting beliefs. And he's like, you don't have to get rid of anything. It's like you're saying, carrying all that invisible baggage. Well, there's really technically nothing to get rid of because it's just all made up anyway. Mm-hmm. And so really the idea of going back and getting rid of limiting beliefs is the idea that there are limiting beliefs there, which means that you've got to do some work around something that you've created that's not even existing. It's just imagined. Mm-hmm. And so you could instantaneously, in his words, instantaneously shift it to just a belief. Mm-hmm. No more limiting beliefs. Well, now I'm stepping into the world if I have a belief. And one of the beautiful things about the human mind, it has the ability to dissociate. Mm-hmm. And some might say, well, that's not a superpower. Oh, yeah, it is. Because you can shift out of a world that was imagined into another world that was imagined. Mm-hmm. And it can be as real or more real than the other world that was imagined. So why not dissociate? And who's to say that the universe isn't already doing that with each of us as a possibility?
100%. And anybody who's watching who's had, dissociation is a really intense trauma response. Mm-hmm. But I at one point realized, like, oh, I could use this to my advantage.
Yeah, right.
I'm really good at being delusional. Why don't I use it over here?
Yeah. In fact, there's a study I was reading. I don't remember the book right offhand, but he talked about dissociation, that they did a measurement on a person that in one character was blind. And in another character could see. Same body, same person, but different experiences. When they went into the space of being blind, their vision shut off. They could measure it. Their vision shut off. They were literally blind. But it would activate as soon as they switched to the other character. I mean, the brain has the ability to dissociate in such a degree that you can literally be a different person. So why not make up a new story anyway? It's all made up anyway. Everything you're living is made up.
Yeah. So, and I think that too, I think one of the ways that I have had an easier time doing that with, because a lot of the stories that we've made up about ourselves, they're very real in the body.
Yeah.
They're very real in the body. This was one of my big hangups why I couldn't get, for so long, I really struggled to embrace this idea that they're all stories and they're all made up, was because it felt incredibly invalidating.
Yeah, right.
So pain that I'm like crying and feeling horrible. You're telling me that's not real. It just felt dismissive and invalid. And I'm not saying you are, but that's how I experienced it.
I
And
try
then
to be dismissive and
yeah, I
valid.
figure you strike me that way.
Yeah.
Was the story is made up. The experience is really real.
Yeah.
And those emotions that follow that story are intense energy. This is one of the things that I learned working with the shaman. I mean, they are like multi-dimensional, time warping, energetic black holes. Like they are massive. And so if you're coming from it from just this very like, okay, well, it's not real and I can make up whatever I want, and it from this very head space, for me, it's like the equivalent of trying to scoop the, tsunami floodwaters with a Dixie cup. Like it's just, you're just working against so much power. And so the two ways that I have found when I'm really am stuck in a state that is created by a story I'm telling myself is, one, honor the emotion. You have to like let it flow. Just because it's a response from a story you made up doesn't mean it's not a real energy in your body. Right. And the second part of that is energy management. I mean, I think high performance above all else is energy management. And energy management in like creating vitality in your body through taking care of yourself, but energy management in honoring the emotions that are there and letting them move. Energy management in the sense of, I know that I perform better when I move my body in the morning. And energy management, lastly, in the sense of the high achievers anxiety loop, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with, where you just like get so anxious that you can't focus, but you can't move away from your work because you're in this like, I have to be productive mode.
Yeah. I've done that.
But even that's energy management. So you've got this massive amount of anxious energy, which has you be so unclear about the how and what to do next that you get paralyzed and do nothing. Go for a walk.
Yeah. Wow.
Like Tony Robbins talks about state change. State change is energy management.
Yeah.
And when you start to understand that energy is the precursor to performance, all of a sudden the how for me takes on way more depth. It's not just what are the steps I need to take in order to like create a response from another human. All of a sudden those steps might include going for a walk by the lake, playing with my dog, taking a nap, and all that stuff gets pushed now into your to-do list, which before was the stuff I never have time for because I'm too busy being busy.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I've been thinking about this lately. For me, my activity, my most productive, let's say, time is in the mornings. From morning till about 1-2 o'clock, I'm pretty productive. After that, I start going into that state that you're talking about. And then I start getting burnout, and then I get really tired and I don't want to do anything. And that's where the heavier emotions come in because I'm in that low energy state. And what I've learned in the past, I would have reacted like there's something wrong with me. And now what I'm creating is I can let that be and re-engage as soon as I reset my energy in some form. I can go for a walk, like you said, or I can go to sleep. There's nothing wrong with going to sleep if you can do it. Yeah.
And kind of looping back to what you said before about what Brendan Burchard says, like you don't have to let go of anything.
Yeah.
You're in those low energy states. Your thought quality is lower. So we'll call that the land of limiting beliefs. Because if a limiting belief were truly a limiting belief, it would always limit you. But there are times where you just feel so good and so excited that you'll go take an action that you'd never take because of this limiting belief. You might sing at an open mic night where you were otherwise terrified of performance.
Right,
When we actually can get ourselves into this energetic state of positive, feeling really good, this is something Steve Chandler talks about all the time. Your limiting beliefs, you may or may not hold them. That's not in question, but they become irrelevant.
Yeah. Wow. There's some grace in that. What I'm hearing is that you can have these lower emotions, these heavier energies in your body, and still control what you speak into the world. You can have that heavy energy and still control how you show up in the world.
That's right.
And so managing that part of it, managing that energy, just says that when I'm having a down day or a low energy day, I'm not speaking to the world, abracadabra, this creation of my life is shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So being conscious of that is you could feel that, you could think that, have all the thoughts that come with it, and still create powerfully in your world by managing what you speak and act on.
That's something my coach says. You don't have to let how you're feeling leak into who you're being.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I talk about being at the top and the bottom of the ladder, meaning the bottom of the ladder is my life is shit, low consciousness feeling. Top of the ladder is, the opposite. And if I'm at the bottom of the ladder, I'll walk into the house and say, don't believe one thing that comes out of my mouth.
Wow.
Because I just
like the ownership of that, right?
Yeah.
That's powerful, because that's hard. That's the ego wants to get in the way of that.
Oh yeah.
Hardcore.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Wow. Even the idea, like even hearing that somebody says something on the lower rung of the ladder to you, and you say to them, you hurt me. No, they didn't. They said something. That was an event. You took what they said, created a story around it, created an experience around that, hurt yourself with what they said.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so any event in our environment is neutral. And that's why one person or two people can have the same event and different experiences, is because it's the way that they're interpreting it. And a lot of that goes back to what we were programmed or taught ourselves to do or learn to do. But if you didn't receive the learning that you needed as a kid, well, now it's your opportunity to be the parent to yourself that you never had, right? If you missed out on that, well, they keep talking about in psychology, reparent yourself. Whatever's missing, whatever's deficient, build up the strength in that area for yourself. You're the parent now.
That's right. And it takes incredible willingness to take ownership of your life and experience. And that's a journey in and of itself. And I know for me, a massive part of that journey was I had no distinction between responsibility, fault, and blame. I had no distinction between any of those things. So when I learned that everything is, you're responsible for everything you create and you have to take ownership of your experience, I would start to see, okay, I get that, X, Y, and Z are happening in my life and I don't like it. Therefore, I'm responsible. Therefore, I'm to blame. And I would just bring self-judgment into the conversation, which just locks everything into place. So if you think about reparenting yourself, I'm a parent, so it might be a little bit easier, but you might want to think about how you would reparent if you were an actual parent, and you wouldn't do it from this place of harsh judgment. And
no, I think that's why we say reparenting your inner child, is because it creates a story that we can connect with. If we were to say to ourselves, there are faulty chemical signals going on in your body that are deficient in this area, and you've got to close the gap between what happened and what you would like to have in your world, then nobody would connect to it. So this whole concept and construct of an inner child was created so that we'd have something to connect to.
The problem with that, though, for me, was I had such a innocent sense of unworthiness and not enoughness that my inner child to me wasn't really worth reparenting compassionately.
Wow.
So I think I agree, and I love the value of reparenting the inner child, but I think for anybody who struggles with that level of unworthiness, there can actually be some value in just externalizing the child and as a bridge towards even more compassion.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for softening that, because I can get really rigid in that scientific approach, like that stoic, like just move through it. Right. But at the same time, like I want that compassion. I want that empathy from others. And I want that for myself as I work through this, because it can feel challenging. To say that it is, this is where I go to JP Morgan and looking at every word. Is it, it can feel that way. It can be present, but is it, to really question that, going into the work of Byron Katie and others, is to really question what you're saying to yourself. Is that true? Can that fully be true?
Yes. And
Right.
being willing to hang with the tension that
Oh yeah.
question immediately creates in your body, where you're like, it's definitely true. And you're like,
Are
but
you kidding me? Yeah.
are you sure?
Yeah. To really go through that. One of the things you just mentioned earlier was responsibility, fault, and blame, right? And my mom years ago said something to me. She said, "What about credit? Instead of faulting, what if you credited things? Like at the end of a movie, you have all these credits, right? And you could credit yourself for creating the world the way it is. You can credit others for creating an experience in that movie called your life the way it is. But faulting is like putting the blame over there.
Yeah.
Like they brought something to the table that allows you to do some work. You brought something to the table, so you're credited with this thing.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Because, the other part of that is people who tend to give fault don't give credit where credit is due. But I
Yeah.
actually like the idea of just like credit across the board. It's just
Yeah.
contribution. It's neutral. It feels
Contribution.
neutral.
Yeah, definitely an event. And it's up to us to rewrite our story. I mean, this is where what you're talking about going out of the rules is just rewriting the story. It just means you have the opportunity to write it however you want. Yeah, we were born into a society and a culture, and there are certain things that were taught to us that said, this is how you operate within this society. And these are the rules for this culture. You go overseas, you go to an indigenous tribe and you go live with them, and they have a whole different set of rules, right?
Different.
And if you were born in that environment, your body and brain are designed in such a way that you could live in any environment. That it's not quite a blank slate because you have some genetic passing, but you would be in a space where most of your brain development would occur after birth.
Yes.
Right. So that you could adapt to your environment. And
I think that, I love that, bringing that back into the rewriting the story too, because we accidentally just carry our environment with us. And I think a lot about rewriting your story. One of the practices that I got into, which was sort of a mix of different things, but I think Byron Katie had a big influence on it, was I'll do something called a reality check, where if I find myself just feeling kind of in a non-creative state, I will close my eyes, put my hand in my heart, and ask, like, what am I feeling? What are the physical sensations, emotions that I'm feeling? I might say stress, anxiety, frustration, whatever's there. And then I'll open my eyes, and this is the reality part. What is really happening right now?
Yeah.
And I would say, well, I'm sitting at my computer and I'm talking to two human beings. Like, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Then the check part is, does the inner experience match what's happening around you?
Yeah. Wow.
99% of the time, the answer is no.
Yeah.
If I'm just looking at the reality of speaking to two humans, what would be creating frustration and anger and anxiety? And so then the sort of what I call stepping into magic piece is, if I were experiencing what's happening in reality, what would I be feeling instead? And it would be connection, gratitude, curiosity, etc. And so then if I can let those feelings kind of bubble up in my body, because they will, if I give enough attention to it, all of a sudden I've entered the realm of magic.
I love that. I pictured, as you were saying that, a tree. A tree is not the storm because it's experiencing the wind. Like, the wind is out there, like emotions, right? The wind is there, but the tree is the tree. And so when you can check in and your emotions are out here blowing, it's like you're checking in. I'm anchored in, I'm rooted. What is my reality? You might be experiencing a storm or have the event of a storm going on around you, but it doesn't mean that that's who you are. You're not your emotions. That's
right. It reminds me of something my sister often says, which is, when I remember I'm the ocean, I don't fear the waves. Which is kind of a similar thing. Like, it looks like there's a storm around you, but like, you're also kind of the storm. So you're like, it just softens it again.
Yeah. It's like we shed, right? Humans shed. Like, a piece of skin falls off and you think you're falling apart.
Yeah.
We never think that. It's just like,
that's good.
I don't know. We're just peeling. Right.
Yeah.
Ryan, I'm curious. What other thoughts are coming up for you as you're hearing this?
As I've been experiencing my week and my month and my year, and I hear these things, and I sit with giants every single week, and I get, I mean, this is an hour of coaching, right? Every single week.
Yeah.
And we do it on the radio show. And every giant brings something else, and it's at the right moment, the right time for someone out there, right? This week it was at the right time at the right moment for what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing, and then owning that and being able to feel and then do all of the things that I'm going to go back and rewatch this again, because the power in this to be able to create, be a high performer. There is so much right inside, packed into this episode. If somebody, if they had nothing else in the world other than this audio, you could go and create and curate your life exactly how you want, and know what to do when the emotions come up and those feelings and the stuff, because it comes up. It's there.
You could do what Vanessa does and put it on repeat for a full year.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Boom.
Amazing. I've never even thought of that.
Yeah. Sorry, you're gonna have to listen to me for a year, people.
Yeah.
They already are. They want to.
Yeah, they already are. I want to hit, are you okay on time? I want to hit one more point if you got time for it.
Sure.
Ownership. What does it mean to you? And what can people take on as a possibility for themselves around ownership?
The thing that came up instantly was compassionate neutrality. What do I mean by that?
Yeah, that was a great. I like to mix words together too, but have no meaning. Like, mine won't have anything behind it, but I feel like this does. Compassionate neutrality.
Yeah, what I mean by that is when we want to experience the kind of creative power that we've been talking about for the last hour, I think compassion is everything. It starts and ends with compassion. Doesn't matter if you're talking about something with yourself, with your work, or with other people in the world. You need compassion to be able to honor your experience, to even know what it is. Because if you're frustrated or judging your own experience, when you look at it, you can't even see what it is. Right? Like Byron Katie says, no one's ever seen their body, because you look in the mirror and you have all these judgments that you place on your body before you even open your eyes. So nobody has any idea what their body looks like. And I think this idea of compassion, when we're talking about ownership, is very much the same thing. If you can't look at your experience with compassion, then you can't even see what you're experiencing. And so that's the first part of compassion. And then when you can see what you're experiencing, you can look at it with, and then you choose to look at it with more neutrality, as in like the reality check. What is really happening? You know, I know that so-and-so did say that to me, but did they hurt me? What else could have happened? Then I think you're actually entering into a space of ownership, because then there's creativity there.
Oh, I love this. See, my mind just spins with the meaning of words, right?
Same.
Compassion means to suffer with others, right? So passion is suffering and calm is with, right? And so neutrality is to be willing to suffer with others from a neutral space.
Yes.
And also for ourselves, to be able to suffer with ourselves from a space of neutrality, no judgment, right?
Yes.
Like that neutrality means there's no judgment in it. If somebody came to me and they told me to F off, then I could sit with them in that, then we would get to a space where we'd understand why they would say that to me and how they're experiencing me, which would tell me what their stories are, which would give me compassion, a willingness to suffer with them in their story from a space of non-judgment.
You know who I think is like a master at that is the great Steve Hardison. Like, no judgments, sitting at a gelato shop in Santa Monica, and we just talk. He just wants to talk and love and serve and give. He doesn't need anything from you. I mean, you watch that, TBOLIT NFL, and you'll get it.
Yeah.
He doesn't need anything from you. He just wants you to be the best you that you could ever freaking be. whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
And that's, I think of, I don't know, that he popped in my mind when you said compassionate neutrality.
Yeah, beautiful.
I couldn't agree more. One of my first interactions with Steve Hardison was I had heard about him through JP, and
Yeah.
whatever. He shows up in your world if you're in the coaching world long enough.
Yeah, you're gonna run into him.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And so I reached out and I just said, I just wanted to meet you because you're really in my world as it is. And the question that I asked him was, I said, this might be a stupid question and I'm kind of embarrassed to ask it, but the constant when people talk about you is how loving you are. How on earth do you love other people that much? And he said, I love myself that much. And I was like, okay, well, I did not see that coming. I'm late to the party, but I did not see that coming.
Huh.
It was life-changing, that moment.
Man. So I want to hear one more piece of wisdom from Vanessa, right? So
We don't want this to end, but at some point it has to.
we can
Your
keep going.
kid's going to be banging down the door at some point soon.
We started banging down the door, so I mean, it doesn't faze me like when we go over.
Yeah. With every guest, it's so different. Everybody interacts with the world so differently. And so we never know what to expect. When people share their pieces of wisdom, you can go back, there's 77 episodes now. And each one of them has a nugget, just one primary nugget that you could take out of each one that would change your life. And so if you were giving a piece of wisdom, and I don't say advice, I say wisdom that you're sharing from experience of something that somebody could take on their journey as they go on the Giant's path, right?
Mm.
What would that be? What would you share with somebody that's just starting? Maybe something you wish you would have shared with yourself going all the way back in time.
I wish that I would have truly understood that connection is not the prize, it's the path.
Yeah, go into that.
I've seen this insight about 1 billion times on my journey, but I think I'm just really starting to embody it. I had this idea that if I just became successful enough, and I think for me that meant money. I think so. So someone said, let her daughter in.
We're not doing anything.
So funny.
Yeah, come on in.
I'm Pepper's mom. I get introduced as Pepper's mom. She's way
cool.
I kept thinking that if I just became successful enough, and it was so unconscious, like I never thought these things. But I would just have a community of people around me who loved me. Now that's not to say that I didn't, but I would see somebody on stage speaking at an event as, oh my God, that person is so successful. And every time I closed my eyes, I could imagine all these different visions of success. But the one constant when I look back was that I was always surrounded by connection and laughter. But my approach to creating success was so lone wolf. Like just, people, everybody was a target or a to-do list. You only fell into two categories. Yeah. And it's easy to do. I mean, it was easy for me, but I kept creating varied levels of success, sometimes more, sometimes less, but it just wasn't making a difference. And I caught myself continually saying to myself, it won't make a difference. It won't matter anyway. It won't make a difference. It won't matter anyway. I could sign 10 more clients. It won't make a difference. I could land a big gig. It won't make a difference. I could write it. And I was like, what do I mean? What do I mean when I say it won't make a difference? And I had to go into compassionate neutrality because that was very confusing. And what I found was that it won't make a difference because I'm reaching for the wrong thing. Or at least I'm trying to create one thing through an avenue that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So when I say connection is not the prize, it's the path.
Yeah.
Reminds me of a line from The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. He says, everything in your world that you want has to come through the hands of another man.
Huh.
And when my clients tell me that, like, I don't know why I can't do this on my own, I'm like, because you're not supposed to.
Yeah. Wow.
You're just not supposed to. And so for me, that's what that means.
That is a truth that I will anchor in as well, because We're not supposed to. We wouldn't be where we are, not even close. I wouldn't be where I am today without Ryan Morris. We wouldn't be where we are today without the League of Giants. We wouldn't be where we are today without the Tribe of Giants. So and all the people that are reading the book, and they're coming in with new messages and all these songs. And it's like, there is no way that I'm doing this on my own. Mm-mm. This idea of a self-made man. Yeah. Doesn't exist.
If you're doing it on your own, you're not doing it on your own.
Right. There's always contribution. Mm-hmm. And so that's where to step back and recognize that what a powerful piece of wisdom is connection is the path. And it's so vital, right? To have all these connections. And Ryan, I think, is masterful at this. I'm going to get mushy on you, Ryan. You're masterful at creating those connections and really genuinely being there with people. For me, initially, based on my story that I told myself, was that it takes effort and work, right? But when I can really sit with somebody, then I can deeply connect with that person because I can put myself over there. Mm-hmm. And Ryan has this ability to do that, to just sit with people and just, man, they're instantly friends, and not just short term. It's for the long run, right? Yes. For me, that takes a little more effort. That's the story I'm telling today. Maybe tomorrow I'll shift that.
Yeah. I agree, by the way, about Ryan. Totally. 100%. Yeah. Some people are a name on the screen when they pop up, which is, fine. But when Ryan's name pops up, there's so much energy packed with it and so much presence packed with it.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Receive it, brother. He's like, well, yeah.
That's hard for my personality to receive that. That's yeah. But I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the same thing, the feeling's mutual in a lot of times your show comes on when I'm at work or, and in life. And I'm like, oh, and I want to be like fully engaged because I really believe in the magic of it all. It's such an amazing show. And when you bring on your guests, the words that you speak and the way that you introduce them and the way that the messages come through is a beautiful creation. And so I feel it. I can see how it can help so many people, and it helps me. So I want to be there. I want to be present. I want to share with others because of what you're doing and how you're being, how you're showing up, and how I see you. It's a mirror as well. So I appreciate everything that you said and continue to do that because I really feed off of it and need it. And I know that many others, millions of people need it as well, and you're an inspiration. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we got your website up there. Anything else we can promote for you at the moment? Looks like you have a book coming out in the fall.
Got a book.
Yeah.
So exciting.
That's awesome.
It is. It's called We Are One: How One Woman Reclaimed Her Identity Through Motherhood. Speaking of rule breaking. It comes out August 17th. It's available for pre-order now. Really, it's the most magical thing I've ever created.
Do you know this woman?
The one who knew identity.
Yeah.
I don't. And that's, I am every day like, maybe I don't know what I want. Maybe I don't know who I am. Turns out I was wrong about everything.
Yeah. I love it. Well, this has been magical, which is, your show is all about that. And thank you for sharing your philosophies and your views and beliefs and learnings. Yeah, that's the value of these shows, is that we get to sit for an hour and masterfully hear you like just create, right? That is so valuable. These are things that people pay tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars for. Even I saw a check the other day, $1 million for a coaching session. $1 million. That's how valuable this information is. And so really sit with these shows, put it on repeat for a year. I might try that. That sounds awesome, actually.
I tell you, you even do it 4 times, you're going to be blown away by what you hear differently.
Yeah. Come on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on. For those that are watching, continue to watch the shows. Join us on YouTube if you haven't done that already. Come join the Tribe of Giants.
Yes.
A phenomenal community of global giants, and we're growing day by day. and we are changing the world. So you guys make it a giant day. She's going to choke me.
Hi, Capri.
We'll see you in the next video.
Love you too.
Bye. Thanks.